Hello, I'd like to talk about this British Army knife here. This one is a little pocket knife. Just some things about it in general, really. So, to start off with, we'll look at the stamps and the logos. Now, these, as you can see, are made in Sheffield, England. And there's a few variations of these. There's obviously this one that's in my hand. You can get this with just the can opener and the blade without the spike. You can get it with the blade and the spike without the can opener. Or you can get it with the can opener, the blade and a lock. So it'd be a locking knife. And I believe they all have this screwdriver, which I would imagine can be used as a pry bar because that looks absolutely solid. So, like I said, these are made in Sheffield. Has a sheepsfoot blade, which I find extremely difficult to sharpen. These do not come sharp, which is rather a shame. I'm just trying to remember who makes these. I think it should say on the tank stamp, which sadly it doesn't. I can't quite remember, maybe it says on the can opener. Now, I'll just talk about the can opener just now actually. As you can see, it's a bit of a nail breaker. It's very difficult to get that open. So I'm going to have to use some help from a leatherman. Now, I'm not entirely sure if these are issued to soldiers. I know they used to be. Certainly they did during the war. Here's an original from World War II. I'll get to that later. I believe there is a mark on the blade. Yeah, I was right. Must have some sort of oil on it or something. Just tells you to oil on the joint. Now, I've got a point about this can opener. And you might think, well, what's so fascinating about a can opener? Look at the size of the bloody thing. I don't know what they were thinking when this was made, but this is absolutely huge. Why is that so damn big? Now, for comparison, here we have a Victorinox Spartan. So you can see there, the can opener on the British Army knife is insanely large. There's absolutely no need for that. And to make matters worse, it's a terrible can opener. I've used it, or I've tried to use it a couple of times, but it really just doesn't work. This piece here should be sharp, and this should come to more of a point, which it doesn't. So that needs to be sharpened. And the second last tool on this is this. This is a Merlin spike. This is for working with ropes, for tying and untying knots, and for tying ropes together, I believe. I have used this a handful of times, and I have to say, in my opinion, it is rather useful. Here we have the bail for attaching a cord or chain to, so you don't lose it. I quite like that feature. I wish more knives had them. I believe all the Swiss Army knives actually used to have them until they switched to a keyring. And here you have a screwdriver. What the soldier would use that for, I have no idea. Might be for working on a rifle, but I'm not sure. And I would imagine you could use that as a pry bar, because as you can see here, it extends all the way back. That does look pretty strong, and considering this is all steel construction, I see no reason why you can't pry with that. The price to buy this knife actually widely varies. You can get these from £17 up to £30 depending on where you go. I paid £17 for this model of Heine Haynes. More of a collectible piece because, you know, it's a British Army knife. But I think it makes a decent cabinet piece, which is where I keep this. No reason you can't use it. It is very functional. It's very flat as well, actually, but it is rather heavy in the pocket. I believe sailors use these a lot because the Merlin spike, and a sheep's foot does seem to be a popular choice for sailing as well. Now onto the original one. Like I said, this is from the Second World War, and you can see it is fairly similar. You've got the Merlin spike, the knife, and the can opener. The can opener is very different, and you can see these ones have scales. This one does not. They weigh probably about the same, but this one's obviously slightly thicker. And you can see this has had quite a bit of use to it, which mine hasn't. Mine has a few scratches when I tried to sharpen it. That was back when I wasn't that great at sharpening. Now, because this is so old and stiff, once again, Leatherman to the rescue. This clearly was a sheep's foot blade also. This is very dull. I don't really intend on sharpening it because this just lives in the cabinet. It is an old knife and I don't intend to use it. Of course, this knife is much older than me. In fact, I believe these are collectible by themselves. Now let's look at the can opener, which you can see is very stiff. This is a much older design of can opener. Though I do believe cans were different back then. I really don't know how to use this. I think this could possibly be damaged. I think this should have a bit of a hook that comes off so you could grab one at the side of the can. And there you go, you can see the date on the knife with the government's broad arrow. This one's dated 1945 and there is some other marks on it which I cannot read. I think that says Watts, W-A-T-T-S, so I assume that's the manufacturer of this knife. And of course the Merlin spike. And the bail. So like I said, it is well used. Obviously carbon steel. So this knife is about 70 years old. And it's clearly stood the test of time, which is of course a very good thing, especially as it's a soldier's knife. Now I do have a modern knife like this. It's not exactly the same. This is a navy knife. This is by John Nolan, I believe. No, J. Adams. This one's obviously in perfect condition because I bought this brand new. These are still being made, and these will cost you about £30 from Heine Haynes. The blade on these are pretty nice, I think. These come reasonably sharp, unlike the other one. This one comes extremely dull. but there is quite a price difference. Like I said, this one costs £17 and this one costs £30. So this one does not have the screwdriver. A very, very tight and stiff Merlin spike, of course. This is a navy knife. There you go with the bill again. Now you can see that the handle material on these two knives are very similar. This is probably made of slightly different materials than this. Now this one here feels a lot smoother, but then again it is 7 years old and this one is new and not being used. So I would imagine this has been discoloured with heat and water and things like that, and this is just sat around my house, so never been used. So there's the 3 British Army pocket knives. Now there are obviously other versions out there, but this is all I have. I wasn't actually going to talk about this, but I may as well. This is also a British Army knife. I believe it's the British Army Jungle Survival Knife. I don't know the history behind these or when they're made or anything, but this is a new one. You can see again the government broad arrow, and this is just one big solid slab of steel. I've no idea what the grind on it is or anything, but this knife really is a workhorse. These costs about £50 of Heine Haynes, which to me is actually a really good price, even though it's not made that well, because this is one big solid slab of steel. There's no way you're going to break this. I'll be amazed if anyone would break these. That said, the hilt is only spot welded, which isn't too impressive. But then again, it's held on there with the friction between the blade and the handle. Unfortunately, I do not know what kind of wood this is, and I wouldn't know where to find the information on what kind of wood this is. The rivets are very large and made of copper, and I would imagine it's also glued on. I believe the reason why this isn't flush is so when you hold it, if it's cold outside and you're using this, your hand doesn't freeze, because of course it's steel, it attracts the cold. Or it can get very cold, which actually it does. It feels kind of cold to the touch right now, and I'm in the house. These come extremely dull. I've tried many times to sharpen it and I just can't. Even though it is shiny there because I have stropped it. I personally would like to get these shaven sharp, but I don't know what it is about this knife, I just can't seem to do it. Now the last thing I would like to say is this does come with a leather sheath. There is 2 options. There's this leather sheath, or there's a DPM sheath, which I believe is made of nylon. In my opinion, you're better with this sheath. But then again, I've never actually used the other sheath. Never owned one. It seems pretty sturdy, and I believe it is made of real leather, and of course there are plenty of rivets. Now, this sheath seems kind of funny to me because it seems to be set up for left-handed use, meaning you'd hang this on the left-hand side of your belt opposed to the right. Now, why they would make it like that, I do not know, because most people are right-handed, so to me this seems rather strange. And another problem with this is way too loose. This does not retain the knife. It just falls out. Now, unless you're hanging upside down, of course, that shouldn't be too much of a problem, but this just seems rather pointless. Now, these do make pretty good choppers, I'll say. So that pretty much concludes my video. I hope you learned something. I quite enjoy talking about these things, so I hope you enjoyed listening, and hopefully you learned a thing or two. So, thank you for watching, and goodbye.